Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are opening up a topic that is, well, it's probably simultaneously the most frustrating and maybe the most rewarding for advanced English learners. We're talking about that gap, that chasm between the language rules you've spent hours learning in a classroom and, the English native speakers actually use.
Yeah, the spontaneous, messy, real-world stuff.
Exactly. It's not always the same, is it?
Not at all. And it's true. You could absolutely ace a grammar test, get 100%, but then you start talking, and a native speaker might instantly know your English came mainly from a textbook, maybe one written back in 1985.
Right, that slightly stiff, maybe outdated feel.
Precisely. So the goal today isn't just about being grammatically correct. It's about aiming for that true, effortless fluency. And that really involves context and tone just as much as it involves, verb conjugation.
Okay, so let's really unpack this. Our mission for you in this deep dive is basically to shortcut that learning process. We've looked at sources, analyzed them, and identified 16 specific phrases. These are phrases that seem logical, often they're grammatically fine, but native speakers, they don't say them.
They really don't.
And using them can make you sound, unnatural, maybe a bit robotic, or sometimes even completely out of date.
And we're going to really get into the why. We'll look at the linguistics, the cultural context behind it. Why do these phrases feel wrong? Sometimes it's because they're way too formal. Other times it might be a structural thing you've carried over from your first language, L1 interference, we call it.
Okay.
Or maybe the phrase is just clunky, inefficient. But the point is, mastering these 16 little switches, that's probably one of the easiest ways to instantly close that gap.
The gap between textbook English and how people really talk.
Exactly. Real world English.
And this isn't just about swapping a word here or there. It's deeper. It's about getting that cultural fluency. So let's jump right in. First set of pitfalls. First impressions in social context. Getting that tone right so you sound natural, not harsh.
All right, first up. The very first thing you might ask someone new, when you're making small talk, asking about what they do for work. The phrase we really need to ditch, even though it seems the most direct, is, what is your job?
Yeah, that one. Grammatically, perfect.
Yeah.
No errors there.
Yeah.
But it's just, it feels too direct, very blunt. In a lot of native English-speaking cultures, maybe especially in North America, asking about work touches on things like social standing, personal space. It's a bit delicate.
So what is your job feels like?
It sounds transactional, almost like you're sizing them up, trying to figure out their place in society or something. It lacks that social softness.
Okay, so that's the directness problem right there. And natives, we kind of unconsciously go for brevity, smoothness.
We do. So instead of that sort of forward hammer.
Yeah. The gold standard, the one you'll hear all the time, is simply, what do you do?
Much softer.
Much softer. And often, like the sources pointed out, it's introduced casually, maybe with a little pause or a word like, so. You're chatting, maybe networking, and someone goes, so, what do you do?
Right. That little so makes it feel less like an interrogation.
Exactly. It's a little conversational bridge. Okay. Changing topic now, no pressure.
Now, sometimes you hear people try to make it more explicit. Maybe they think, what do you do? It's too vague. They might say, what do you do for a living?
That's definitely acceptable. It's fine. But funnily enough, the native instinct is usually to shorten it anyway.
Because we just understand what do you do includes the for a living part.
We do. The context implies it. So while what kind of work do you do is also perfectly okay, that simple what do you do just hits the sweet spot.
It's direct enough, but polite because it's so efficient.
Precisely. Efficiency often equals politeness in these initial chats. Keep it light, keep it moving.
So the big takeaway here for first meetings: temper directness with efficiency. Keep the tone light, not intrusive. Okay, now, moving from asking about work to talking about not having work. This is another big one for tone.
Oh yeah, huge.
The language you choose here really, really impacts how people see the situation and maybe how they see you. The phrase to absolutely stop using is, I'm jobless.
Oof, yeah. Jobless. It sounds so clinical, harsh, final.
It does have a negative weight to it.
It really does. It almost sounds like a permanent state, doesn't it? And it's often the kind of word you see in government reports or news headlines about unemployment rates. It's not typically what someone says about themselves in conversation.
Sounds quite self-critical, maybe.
Very much so. It's hard to say I'm jobless without sounding down on yourself.
So we need to neutralize that harshness. How do we shift the tone, make it sound more factual, or even better, more positive, more forward-looking?
Okay. For the purely factual replacement, the standard is simply, I'm unemployed.
Just changing jobless to unemployed makes a difference.
A massive difference. It feels more objective, less loaded, maybe more temporary. And even better, adding a little time marker helps soften it further. I'm unemployed at the moment.
Right, at the moment implies it's not forever.
Exactly. But what really stands out, especially in professional contexts, is that cultural preference for optimism you mentioned.
Yes, putting a positive spin on it.
Absolutely. If you want to sound instantly more fluent and just sort of socially aware in these situations, you adopt a positive reframe, even if, you've been looking for ages and it's frustrating.
So what are those positive reframes?
Well, the incredibly common one is, I'm between jobs right now.
Okay, between jobs. That sounds much better.
It implies transition, movement, not just a dead end. Or you can use language that focuses on your goal. I'm looking for a new position.
Right, active, proactive.
Exactly. And if you're in a more formal or professional setting, like a networking event, you might go for something even more polished, like, I'm in a career transition.
Okay, career transition. Sounds quite strategic.
It does. And using these phrases shows you understand not just the grammar, but also that sort of unspoken social pressure to maintain a professional, optimistic outlook, even when things are tough. It's navigating the social side of the language.
That's a really great point about managing the social aspect.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Something maybe simpler, but still a common trip up. Expressing that you like something a lot. We need to avoid what we can call the overkill problem. Take the phrase, I like it very much.
Ah, yes. Again, grammatically,
Yeah.
flawless. But it just sounds odd, unusual. For a native speaker, it often flags itself as a direct translation, from languages where maybe that intensifier, very much, structurally has to come after the object.
Right. So it feels a bit clunky in English.
It does. It feels like extra steps, unnecessary weight. Native speakers have just developed more efficient, more idiomatic ways to say the same thing. Why use 3 words at the end when 1 word earlier works better?
So what are those better ways?
Well, the most common fix is simply using an intensifier, an adverb, before the verb like. So instead of, I like ice cream very much,
You say.
I really like ice cream. That word really slots in perfectly right before like. The placement feels natural.
Okay, really like. Simple enough. What else?
Alternatively, if you do want an intensifier at the end, the go-to phrase is simply a lot. So, I like ice cream a lot. Much smoother than very much.
A lot. Got it. And there's an even simpler fix sometimes.
Often, yes. If you like something very much, chances are the feeling is pretty strong, right?
Probably, yeah.
So maybe just use a stronger verb altogether. Ditch like and just say, I love ice cream.
Saves words, sounds more natural, more direct in a good way.
Exactly. It's punchier. That little switch from like very much to really like or like a lot or just love. It's one of those quick wins that immediately makes you sound less like you're reading from a script.
It removes that textbook stiffness.
Oh.
All right, final one in this first impression section. And this one. This one is probably the most jarring example of using outdated language.
Oh boy. I think I know where you're going.
This is the phrase that, if you use it today, instantly tells people you learned English from, I don't know, a curriculum written when my grandparents were young. The phrase to stop using, please, is, how do you do?
The dreaded how do you do? Oh my goodness. I actually heard someone use this at a casual barbecue once. Seriously.
No. Just
Silence. Crickets. Then some awkward chuckles. Because it's so incredibly formal, so utterly outdated. It just sounds like something out of a black and white movie. People with monocles and top hats might say it.
or someone telling a joke, maybe?
Or telling a joke, exactly. It doesn't sound like genuine interaction in, 2024.
Okay, so here's the key insight, the deep dive bit.
Yeah.
You have to understand what that phrase did. What was its function?
Right. Crucially, how do you do? Wasn't actually a question asking about your health or your day. No, it functioned purely as a greeting upon first meeting someone, a formal acknowledgement. The expected reply was, guess what?
How do you do?
Exactly, how do you do? How do you do? It was a formula, not a question expecting an answer like, I'm fine, thanks.
Okay, so if its function was just, hello, nice to meet you, what's the modern way to perform that same function?
The absolute standard, the one everyone uses when meeting someone for the first time, is simply, nice to meet you.
Simple, clear, does the job.
Does the exact same job, just with modern natural language.
Yeah.
Now, if you really need a bit more formality, perhaps in a very specific business context,
You could say.
it's a pleasure to meet you. That's perfectly acceptable and still sounds current, just more formal.
Okay. And we absolutely have to double down on what the sources say. Do not, under any circumstances, unless you are literally acting in a period drama, use the phrase, pleased to meet your acquaintance.
Oh, please don't. Yes, just no. Stick with nice to meet you. It works everywhere.
Good advice. Okay, so that wraps up section 1. We've seen how sounding natural in first impressions often means avoiding bluntness, managing tone carefully, and ditching those dusty old phrases.
Exactly. It's about social fluency. Now, let's move into some core structural errors. These are the grammatical traps, the word choice issues, where small mistakes can make a big difference in how skilled you sound.
All right, section 2. Tackling those persistent structural mistakes that can linger even after years of learning. First up, mixing comparative and superlative forms. Like when someone says something like, learning English this way is the better.
Ah, yes, the better. That's a classic mix-up. You're combining elements from two different structures.
How so?
Well, better is the comparative form, right? Use it to compare two things. But putting the in front of it, the usually signals the superlative form, like the best, which you use when comparing three or more things, or one against all others.
So you're mashing them together incorrectly.
Exactly. You've got the article for the superlative with the adjective for the comparative. Doesn't quite work.
Okay, so how do we fix it? If we want to use the comparative form, better, correctly.
The key is structure. When you use a comparative like better, you almost always need to state what you're comparing it to, using the word than.
Right, the comparison point.
Yes. So the structure is X is better than Y, for instance. Learning English through these deep dives is better than just memorizing word lists. You need that than phrase to complete the comparison.
People often leave that than part out, don't they?
They do, especially if they think it's obvious. And sometimes, very occasionally, in specific contexts like answering a direct question, you might just say X is better. But honestly, for clarity and demonstrating strong grammar, including the than Y part is usually the way to go.
Okay, and if you actually mean it's the top one, out of many options,
Then you switch entirely to the superlative structure. X is the best. So this deep dive is the best resource for sounding natural. No better involved.
got it. So comparative, better than
For two.
superlative, the best for 3 or more. Keep them separate.
Keep them separate. Don't cross the streams.
Huh. Okay. Next trap. Relationship status. This is a huge one for preposition errors, often coming directly from people translating from their first language. We need to stop saying, I'm married with Kevin.
Yes. Please stop saying that. This is one of the most common preposition mistakes. In English, when you're talking about who you are married to, the preposition is fixed. It is always to.
Always to.
Always to. You are married to someone. The structure is to be plus married plus to plus the person or noun. She's married to a musician. He's married to his high school sweetheart.
Okay, that rule seems pretty clear-cut. Married to.
It is. And if you find yourself struggling to remember it, there's always another way to phrase it, which also happens to follow politeness rules.
Yes.
You can just say, Kevin and I are married. Notice, you put the other person first, Kevin, and yourself, I, last. That's the polite way to list people, including yourself.
Right. Kevin and I are married. Avoids the preposition issue altogether.
Exactly. But now, here comes the deep dive nuance. The tricky part. Because there is a situation where you use married with.
Ah, the exception. This is probably why people get confused.
Almost certainly. You use married with correctly, only when you're talking about something that accompanies the marriage, specifically children.
So, they're married with 3 kids. That's okay.
That is perfectly correct, because with here isn't connecting the partners, it's indicating the presence of the children alongside the marriage. It's like saying they are a married couple and they also have 3 kids.
Okay, that distinction is vital. Married to your partner, but married with children if you're mentioning them in the same phrase.
Precisely. Understanding that specific exception helps solidify the main rule, always married to the person.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And it leads us nicely into another word choice issue, often another translation problem of false friend. The phrase, we have a great relation.
Yeah. Relation. This nearly always comes from languages where the word relation covers both the general concept and the specific interpersonal connection.
But not in English.
Not for the personal connection, no. If you're talking about the bond, the dynamic between people, whether it's romantic, family, friends, even professional, You absolutely must add the ship on the end.
This has to be relationship.
It has to be a relationship. You have a great relationship. My boss and I have a strong relationship. She has a difficult relationship with her sister. It always needs that ship for the interpersonal meaning.
Okay, relationship for people. Is there ever a time we use just relation or relations?
Yes, but it's quite different. Relations, plural, with an as is used, but usually in more abstract, formal, or technical contexts, like international relations, diplomatic relations, public relations, or sometimes in very formal discussions about family connections, like kinship relations and anthropology or legal context. But for the everyday connection between two people, always relationship.
Got it. Add the ship for people.
Yeah.
Okay, next up. Confusion between asking for more of something versus stating a preference between things. The specific error. I prefer more coffee.
Right. The problem here is the verb prefer. In English, prefer inherently implies a choice. You use it when you're selecting one option over another.
So, I prefer X to Y.
Exactly. It sets up a comparison. It doesn't work simply to mean, I want more of this thing.
Okay, so if I'm sitting in a cafe and my cup is empty and I just want another coffee, I shouldn't say I prefer more coffee.
Definitely not. That would sound very strange. For a simple request for more, you need the polite request structure. The most common is using I'd like, which is short for I would like.
So I'd like more coffee, please. Or I would like some water.
Perfect. That's the standard polite way to ask for something.
And when do we use prefer correctly then?
You use prefer when you are actually stating a choice between alternatives. And crucially, the structure requires the preposition to when you state both options. You prefer X to Y.
Example.
I prefer coffee to tea in the morning. Or maybe someone offers you different kinds of snacks and you say, I prefer something savory to something sweet right now. You're making a choice.
You could also use it like, I prefer sitting by the window, implying rather than sitting elsewhere.
Yes, exactly. The comparison might be implied sometimes, but the core meaning involves selecting one option over others, not just wanting more.
Okay, that makes sense. Prefer is for choice, I'd like is for requests.
Got it.
Now, let's tackle one of the absolute titans of common errors. Heard from speakers of almost every language background, expressing agreement, the mistake. I'm agree.
I'm agree.
Yeah.
Yes. It's everywhere. And it's understandable why it happens.
Why is that?
Because, as our listeners know, agree is a verb in English. But in so many other languages, the equivalent idea is expressed using a structure that translates more like I am in agreement or I am of the agreeing state, which uses their version of the verb to be.
So people translate that structure directly. I am plus the concept of agreeing becomes I'm agree.
Right, exactly. It's a direct structural transfer that just doesn't work in English grammar.
And the fix is, well, it's almost annoyingly simple, isn't it?
It really is. You just use the verb directly. I agree.
That's it. No am.
No am, no is, no are, just the subject and the verb. I agree. She agrees. We agree. Simple present tense.
Okay. I agree. Burn that into memory.
Yeah.
Now, what about adding more information? Like who you agree with or what you agree on?
Good point. Once you've got the basic I agree down, the next step for fluency is using the right prepositions. And they're pretty consistent.
Which are?
You agree with a person. I agree with you. He agrees with his colleague. And you agree on a topic, a plan, or a decision. We agree on the deadline. Do we all agree on this approach?
Okay. With for people, on for topics, plans.
Exactly. And it works the same way for the opposite. Disagree. I disagree with my manager. They disagreed on the best strategy. Same preposition pattern.
Simple rules. Big impact on sounding correct.
Huge impact.
All right. Next preposition pitfall. This one involves the verb wait. Stop saying, I'm waiting you.
Another one likely caused by how verbs work in other languages. In many languages, wait might be a transitive verb, meaning it takes a direct object. You wait someone.
But not in English.
Not when you specify who or what you're waiting for. In that case, wait needs a partner. It functions as part of a phrasal verb construction, to wait for.
So the for is mandatory if you mention the person or thing.
Mandatory, absolutely. You always wait for someone or for something.
So corrections would be, I'm waiting for you outside. Or, we're waiting for the bus. She's waiting for news.
Perfect. I'll need for, but. There's always a but, isn't there?
There often is. What's the exception here? When do we not need for?
Okay, this is a nice bit of advanced detail. You don't need for if you only mention the location or the time of waiting, but you don't specify who or what is being waited for.
Example.
If you just say, she's waiting in the lobby, or I'll be waiting downstairs, see? You're saying where the waiting is happening, but not who or what the waiting is directed at. In those cases, no for is needed.
Okay. So I'm waiting for you in the lobby. Needs for, but just I'm waiting in the lobby. No for needed.
Exactly. It depends on whether the object of the wait is stated.
Subtle, but important. Okay, moving on. This next one trips up so many learners. Describing feelings versus describing the cause of feelings. The ed versus ed adjective trap. The common mistake. I'm interested in art.
Oh yeah, I'm interested in, this is a classic. The problem is mixing up the function of those ed and n adjective forms.
Explain that. What does the N form do?
The ing form, like interesting, boring, exciting, confusing, describes the thing or person that causes the feeling. It's the active source. So if you say, I'm interesting, you're saying that you are the source of interest for other people.
Right. You're saying you have the quality that makes others feel interested.
Exactly, which might be true, but it's probably not what you mean when you're talking about your hobbies.
Probably not. So if I want to talk about my own feeling, the feeling I receive from the art, what form do I need?
You need the ed form. The ed adjectives like interested, bored, excited, confused describe the person or thing experiencing the feeling, the recipient.
So the correction is?
I'm interested in art. I, the subject, experience the feeling of interest in the object, art.
And the art itself?
The art itself is interesting. Ing. The art class is interesting. Ing. The book is interesting. Ing. It causes the feeling.
So the cause ing, the feeling is ig.
That's the core connection. A person feels interested, aid, because the subject is interesting. Ing. Same for bored, boring, exciting, etc.
That's a really clear way to put it. Memorize that connection. Okay, next, habitual actions. This one involves confusion between past habits and present familiarity, specifically with used to, the error we often hear. I'm used to wake up early.
This is tricky because used to is involved in two completely different grammatical structures with different meanings, and that sentence, I'm used to wake up early, incorrectly smashes them together.
Okay, let's pull them apart then. What's structure number one?
Structure number one is about a past routine or state that is finished. It's not true anymore. For this, you use the modal structure used to directly after the subject, or crucially, without the verb to be before it, and it's followed by the base form of the verb, the infinitive without to.
So I used to wake up early, meaning?
Meaning I did it regularly in the past, but now I don't. Maybe I sleep in now. The habit is over. I used to live in London, but I don't anymore.
Okay, past habit, no longer true. Subject plus used to plus base verb. Got it. What's structure number two?
Structure number two is about present comfort or familiarity. It describes being accustomed to something now, often something that might be difficult or unusual for others. This structure requires the verb to be, or sometimes get, before used to. And here's the absolute key. It's followed by the gerund, the ing form of the verb.
The ing form. That's where the error usually happens.
Exactly, because the to in be used to is acting like a preposition here, not part of an infinitive. Prepositions are followed by nouns or gerunds, so the correct sentence for present familiarity is, I am used to waking up early.
I am used to waking up early, meaning it's normal for me now. I'm accustomed to it. It doesn't bother me.
Precisely. Maybe it was hard at first, but now it's familiar. She is used to dealing with difficult customers. They got used to living in a noisy city. Using get used to implies the process of becoming accustomed.
Wow. Okay, that's a huge difference in meaning based on whether you include be and use the ing form.
Massive difference. Past habit versus present familiarity.
And you could even use both in one sentence to show the connection.
Absolutely. For maximum fluency points, I'm used to waking up early now, present comfort, because I used to work past habit on a farm.
Brilliant. That really clarifies it. Okay, next issue. Tense mismatch. Specifically when using time words like lately or recently. The common error is using the simple present tense, like saying, I'm tired lately.
Right, or she works hard recently. The problem is that lately and recently are time markers that inherently connect the past to the present. They indicate something started happening sometime before now and has continued up until now, or happened repeatedly in the near past leading up to now.
Okay, they span a period of time ending now.
Exactly. But the simple present tense, I am, she works, is generally used for things that are always true, habitual facts, or states happening right at this very moment. It doesn't naturally cover that span of time implied by lately or recently.
So the tenses clash. What tense does work with lately and recently?
You need a tense that bridges the past and present. That means using either the present perfect, I have been, or the present perfect continuous, I have been being doing.
So correct versions would be,
I've been tired lately, present perfect continuous, emphasizing duration. Or, I have felt tired lately, present perfect, emphasizing the result. We've been working hard recently, present perfect continuous. She has finished several projects recently, present perfect.
so the perfect tenses are needed to match the time frame of lately and recently.
They are. They perfectly capture that up until now meaning.
What if you do want to use the simple present? What time words fit then?
If you stick with simple present like I'm tired, you need a time marker that fits that tense. Like, I'm tired right now. Or use an adverb of frequency that implies a general truth. I'm always tired. She often works hard. Those match the simple present's function.
Got it. Match your tense to your time marker. Crucial for sounding natural.
Absolutely critical.
Okay, last one for this grammar section. A very common issue with an extra, unnecessary preposition. It happens with the verb discuss. People often say, let's discuss about it.
The phantom about. The problem is simple. The verb discuss is transitive,
Meaning?
meaning it takes a direct object. It doesn't need a preposition like about to connect it to the topic being discussed. The meaning of about is already sort of built into the verb discuss.
So about is redundant here, superfluous.
Completely redundant. The correct structure is simply to discuss plus something.
So just say, let's discuss it tonight. Or, we discussed the proposal yesterday.
Exactly. Drop the about. But here's the crucial contrast. The reason why this error is so common.
Why do people say it?
Because the very common synonym talk behaves differently. Talk is generally intransitive in this context and does require the preposition about.
Ah. So you do say, let's talk about it.
Yes, you talk about something, but you discuss something. We talked about the proposal yesterday. We discussed the proposal yesterday. Same meaning, different grammatical structure.
That explains the confusion perfectly. People mix up the rules for talk and discuss.
All the time. Linguistically, you could argue discuss often implies a slightly more focused, perhaps more formal examination of a topic, which is why it takes the direct object. Talk is more general. But the practical rule is discuss plus topic, talk plus about plus topic.
Remembering that little difference know about after discuss is a neat marker of someone who really knows their English structures.
It really is. It's one of those small details that makes a difference.
Okay, that wraps up our deep dive into those core grammatical traps. We've covered comparatives, prepositions with married, agree, word choice like relationship, prefer, tense issues with lately, adjectives with edding, used to, and now discuss. Lots of ground covered.
A lot of key areas where small fixes yield big results in fluency.
Definitely. So let's move into our final section, Section 3. This is about planning, communication, and sounding confident and clear, especially when talking about the future or asking for help.
Right. And our first focus here in Section 3 might actually be the most surprising correction we discussed today. It's about how native speakers typically talk about confirmed future plans. The phrase to stop using, even though it seems perfectly logical, is, I will go abroad next year.
Hold on. Stop using will for the future. Isn't will the future tense? That sounds wrong. How can that be unnatural?
I know, it feels counterintuitive, right? And yes, will is a way to talk about the future, and it is grammatically correct. But in everyday conversation, for plans that are already decided, arranged, or considered definite, using will sounds a bit off.
Off how? What does it sound like to a native speaker?
It often sounds like the plan isn't actually firm yet.
Yeah.
Using will in this context tends to signal things made at the moment of speaking, spontaneous decisions, or maybe predictions, it will rain tomorrow, promises, I will help you, or offers, things that are less locked in.
So saying I will go abroad next year might unintentionally suggest it's just an idea, not a concrete plan.
Exactly. It can introduce a slight feeling of uncertainty or lack of arrangement, even if you didn't mean it to.
Okay, so if my plan is confirmed, I've bought the tickets, I've told everyone, what tense should I be using instead of will to sound natural and definite?
Overwhelmingly, for planned, arranged future actions, native speakers prefer to use the present continuous tense.
The present continuous, like I am going. We use that for the future.
Yes, absolutely. So instead of, I will go abroad next year, the natural, confident way to say it is, I'm going abroad next year.
I'm going abroad next year, even though it's happening next year.
Even though it's next year, or even further out. We're moving to Canada in 5 years. If the plan is considered set, the present continuous is usually the go-to tense.
Wow. Why is that? Why use a present tense for the future?
Think of it this way. Using the present continuous frames the future event as something that's already in progress, in a sense. The arrangements have started, it's on your mental schedule, the momentum towards it has begun. It conveys that sense of certainty and pre-planning.
That's a really crucial insight. So present continuous implies more certainty for future plans than will does in many contexts.
In the context of prearranged plans, absolutely. It sounds more definite, more committed.
Okay, that's a big one to internalize. Present continuous for definite future plans, even long-term ones.
It's a game changer for sounding natural when talking about the future.
Definitely. Okay, final point. Number 16. This is about a very common situation for language learners. Needing someone to repeat themselves. The phrases to stop using are the ones that often feel like direct translations or come straight from a textbook. Please repeat. Or maybe slightly better, but still stiff. Can you repeat, please? Or please, can you repeat?
Those robotic requests, again, technically they use polite words like please or can you, but they just sound unnatural, stiff, almost demanding in a weird way.
Demanding, even with please.
Yeah, it's the directness, the lack of softening, native English communication, especially when making a request that inconveniences someone, like asking them to repeat, really values hedging, softening, and often taking responsibility for the missed communication.
Okay, so instead of just ordering them to repeat, we need to frame it differently. More like explaining why we need them to repeat, maybe.
Exactly. Frame it as your issue, not their failure to speak clearly, and adding a little apology often helps.
So what's a good general natural replacement?
The most common, useful one in many situations, sort of semi-formal, is, sorry, can you repeat that?
Adding sorry in that.
Yes. The sorry softens it immediately, and adding that makes it refer specifically to what was just said. It just flows much better. Or if it was clearly a question you missed, sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah.
Works too.
Okay. What about in more professional or maybe slightly more formal settings? Are there even softer options?
Yes, absolutely. In business or more formal contexts, you often want to be even more indirect. The gold standard here is probably, sorry, I didn't catch that.
I didn't catch that. I like that. It puts the blame on the listener's inability to catch it.
Precisely. It completely removes any implication that the speaker was unclear. It's all about the listener's reception. It's very polite.
And you could soften it even more.
You could. If you only missed a part of it, you might add quite. Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Or other very natural phrases are simply, could you say that again? Or, could you say that one more time, please? Still polite, still common.
Right. Much better than the blunt repeat, please.
Miles better.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the other end of the spectrum.
Casual situations.
Yeah.
Friends and family.
Exactly. With people you know really well, the formality drops completely. You'll hear super quick, casual things like, what was that? Or even shorter, what'd you say?
Or just,
Huh. Or, sorry, but obviously.
don't use huh in a business meeting.
Please don't. Yes. Those super casual ones are strictly for very informal situations with people you're close to. Context is everything.
Absolutely. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our list. 16 phrases or structures to avoid, and crucially, what to use instead to sound instantly more natural. We've covered first impressions, core grammar, and now planning and requests.
It's been a real deep dive into those subtle areas that separate textbook knowledge from genuine fluency. #tag outro.
So just to wrap up, our deep dive today really highlighted that achieving that native-like fluency isn't just about avoiding big grammatical errors. It's often about the smaller things.
It's twofold, really. First, fixing those structural traps that often come from translating directly from your first language, things like knowing it's married to, not married with, or using relationship, not relation.
Right, getting the mechanics correct.
And second, it's about managing your tone and sounding natural, not robotic or outdated. That means avoiding bluntness, like swapping "what is your job" for "what do you do?" Or choosing phrases that convey the right social nuance, like using "I'm between jobs" instead of the harsher "I'm jobless."
And making these switches, replacing these 16 common but unnatural phrases with their native counterparts, it really does make an instant difference.
It really does. You reduce that friction in conversation. You're not making the listener work harder because your phrasing is slightly off. You sound smoother, more efficient.
which means you can stop worrying about sounding correct in that clunky way and focus more on just communicating your ideas clearly and confidently. It helps first impressions, helps long-term understanding.
Exactly. It frees up your mental energy to focus on the message itself.
So, to leave you with something to think about, a final provocative thought building on what we discussed. We talked quite a bit about future plans. We established that for definite, arranged plans, native speakers strongly prefer the present continuous, right? I'm going abroad next year signals more certainty than I will go.
Right. That was a key point.
Okay, so here's the question for you to mull over. If the present continuous has taken over for those definite, certain plans, what's left for I will? In what situations do native speakers still consistently choose to use will when talking about the future? Think about how choosing will versus am going might signal different things. What does will convey about, say, spontaneous decisions made right now? Or about making promises or offers, or perhaps predictions that aren't based on current evidence but more on belief?
Yeah, how does the choice of tense itself signal the speaker's perspective on the certainty or the nature of that future event?
Exactly. How does the level of commitment or spontaneity change depending on whether someone says, I'll do it, versus I'm doing it?
That's a great question. Something to definitely chew on as you continue refining your English and moving from just correct to truly natural.
Food for thought. We hope this deep dive helps you sound more natural, more fluent, and more confident.
Keep practicing those swaps.
We'll see you for the next deep dive.